Okay, wicked.
So we'll start with the first question. Can you tell us who you are and how you came to be involved in Sound of Fury and what your role was?
Okay, in this context, my name is Polarbear, and I was the director of the Sound of Fury piece. I'm also leading the workshops with Jamie Luck in the schools project. And I was asked along initially because I worked a lot with words, and I write and perform, but I don't know anything about Shakespeare. I didn't know anything about Shakespeare, with the view that they were trying to engage people more, and it might make sense to bring somebody in who works with words and yet doesn't necessarily know a lot about Shakespeare. And that's me.
Can you tell us a bit about the show itself? What was in it?
Of course. I kind of handpicked 5 artists, handpicked 5 soliloquies, which I kind of got really excited by. And gave them the starting points and just waited to see what kind of came back, with the view that I was really obsessed with this idea of real time and people trying to figure something out in the moment and needing the audience with them to figure it out. And so much of spoken word is like beginning, middle and end of a piece, summing something up or telling you how things are. It's almost felt like a missed opportunity that we could play with now, to go with this real time thing, to make soliloquies basically seemed like the best version of a spoken word piece ever. Not just in the imagery, the use of language, but in the sense of the real time, somebody there needing you to figure something out. So I wanted to see if we could do that with contemporary voices. And hopefully it worked.
Can you tell us a bit about your rehearsal process and how you worked with these contemporary artists with Shakespeare?
I can. In rehearsal, I mean, it was a very short thing. We had 2 days. And in those 2 days, we had to get our starting points, generate the work, but also make sure we were in it. It was nice to work with, it was a privilege to work with Cicely Berry. This idea of thought and the action that thought leads to, and the thought behind an action and what you want, and one thought leading to another, and separating thoughts and allowing thoughts to land, and just the rehearsal process became about the goal of being in it. So I'm witnessing you real time, trying to figure something out, not you performing to me a piece. And so to work with Cicely on this kind of embodiment of language and you know, what you want and how that translates in the way you are and the way in which you say it. It was kind of intense in a short burst. If we would have had a longer process, we could have gone to we would have gone to town. But they did well for non-actors. They were open up to it, and they kind of went with it, and it worked, I think. And it's for nearly all of them, probably all of them. Toby's done a bit of theatre before, but for the rest of them, and Dee has actually, but in terms of this kind of process, it was something very different for all of them, and it's affected them and their writing. So, job done, I guess.
How do you think young people can benefit from exploring Shakespeare through the spoken word and hip hop?
I think that, well, speaking from experience, it meant less than nothing to me at school. Partly because I was told that I was supposed to like it before, and partly because it was dead. It was on the page, and there was only one way in, and it didn't work for any of us really, and no one could try anything else. And not just in terms of frame of reference or the associations, but partly because it's cool. If you boil it right down, if I look at somebody that I like who's a hip hop artist, and they're telling me something, I'm inclined to listen. And then once you've shone a light on this work, if you're bringing it to the table in the right way, it's about the images, it's about character, it's about stories, and so much of it just seems like it's just words, and the words are only a tool to tell these stories. And I think to switch people onto that, whether they're young or old. I'm old now, and it took me this long to get into it. You can't force it in anyone's neck, but if you shine a light at it from more than one direction, chances are a few more people are going to have a look.
What's happening next with the project?
I'm not sure what's happening next with Sound of Fury. I mean, it definitely feels like the start of something as opposed to something that was done. There are so many things you could do. Jamie and I were just talking now about the idea of running with one play and choosing different parts of it, or exploring the kind of the political side of some of the characters and some of the stories, or even just choosing parts of language that there's so much, isn't there? There's like a sea of stuff. And from what I can gather, I should be able to say this, there's some crap, but there's also some stuff that there's too much. It's kind of daunting. So it's nice to kind of take chunks, not know enough, to feel like I have to like pay that much respect to something. I've still never read a full play. I've just concentrated on the characters and the stories that I like. So in terms of what I'd like to happen next, I'd like us to explore where we could go with it in terms of having a longer process and spending more time getting into it, so it's not, it feels a bit more respectful, I think, of the amount of stuff there is. So hopefully that'll happen. It'd be nice to take it around a few places, this piece, and a developed one, so that a few more people see it, because I think it would raise a few eyebrows, not only in the spoken word arena, but a lot of theatre venues.
And to finish, do you have a favourite line of Shakespeare, and also do you have a favourite line from Sound and Fury?
Okay. I'm kind of like, it's easy for me because I got to pick them. Do you know what I mean? My favourite probably lines are the kind of from Macbeth, I think. The idea of murdering sleep. Anyway, that's the speech where he realises of what he's done and he can't sleep. But in terms of Sound and Fury, it's the 4 lines from Edgar that started it all for me, which apply to, in my head, all of spoken word, but also just us of this generation. And that sounds quite pretentious, but you know what I mean. In terms, I don't really talk about that at all. But this idea of saying what you actually want to, not what you're supposed to, and acknowledging the fact that nothing will be here now without the people who came before you, and you have to be aware of where you are, but also make sure you leave your own mark. It's pretty self-explanatory, really, isn't it? I guess. So it was all right, wasn't it? It was all right. That writing and that. But yeah, that's it.
Polarbear, thank you very much.
No problem.